Hey everyone, this is Livia Caudell, founder and CEO of Conscious Wealth Builders, and you are here watching the Conscious Wealth Builders online summit. And a part of this summit, segment 2, is really about finding your purpose, your mission, your contribution on the planet. And that's something that I've struggled with pretty much my whole young adult life. Is I've had glimpses of what I've thought is my purpose on the planet. And I've been in this struggle of, okay, what's my purpose? And then how can I create a business and be able to make money such that I can take care of myself, my family, give back to the community, live a lifestyle that I want to live. And I feel like a lot of people are dealing with that conversation. And so that's why I created this online summit and bringing, speakers and experts such as yourself to really, speak into that and give people a solution. And so I invited you here on this summit because the both of you, this is Patrick and Cynthia Porter, by the way. These are the CEO and founders of BrainTap Technologies. And what you guys are up to is amazing.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And so, again, going back into discovering your purpose, your mission on this planet, a big part of that is being able to go within. And it's so challenging when there's so much chatter going on up in the mind, and there's so much going on in the world. We're bombarded with all this stress, and you guys have an amazing solution. So I'm going to give it over to you guys and just share a little bit about BrainTap, what it is, and then we can go into how people can discover their purpose using that technology.
Okay, well, for me, Olivia, I was very much like you in my younger years, in my 20s, really feeling lost, confused, wasn't sure, kept changing my majors, kept changing decisions, until I really learned how to meditate and get inside and reach that intuition to really understand what it was that I'm here for. And so I totally identify with what you're saying. I think a lot of people are in that place, especially young people in their 20s and even early 30s are struggling with it.
Yeah, that's, 100%, absolutely. It's definitely a challenge everywhere. And so could you just tell us a little bit about the BrainTap technology and how people could use that to tap into their intuition and discover their purpose?
Well, I think intuition is really the key. What most people don't realize is that they're not having access to their intuition because they're under undue amounts of what we call brain stress. In other words, the brain is so busy trying to deal with the tons of information we're overloaded with every single day that it goes into these coping mechanisms, and then we no longer generate a brainwave frequency called theta. Theta is kind of like that twilight place. It's the brink of sleep.
And isn't that when we're younger too, we live in theta brainwave frequencies, and then once we hit a certain age, we no longer get to enjoy that?
Well, what happens typically is when we're younger, we have an inordinate amount of beta, alpha, theta, and delta. And then when we kind of snap out of it, we become reactionary. And that's kind of what Cynthia's saying right now is when you're doing something you don't like and you're in this fight or flight, this fear-based, we call it the reactionary mindset in beta consciousness, you actually repel opportunities. Because people, when you walk in, your heart, most people don't understand this, but your heart controls your brain, not your brain controlling your heart. The heart is the only organ that has nerves that go directly to the brain. And if your brain is out of coherency, which I know you have a guest on your show that's going to talk more about that than anything else.
Roland McCready.
So we actually broadcast out an 18-foot field of energy around us. When we walk into a room for an opportunity, let's say, but we're in fear, that's out of coherency. Even though the person doesn't understand what that is, there's something called vibes. Somebody walks in and says, I just got a vibe about that person. Well, what they're really saying is, my tuner, which is the brain, picked up that they were not in coherency. They were not basically living their purpose. When you're in alignment, and everything lines up, your heart chakra, if you want to call it that, your heart center is aligned with your brain, with your mind. When your heart and your brain are moving together, you make decisions. You move when somebody says about passion and living your passion, you're willing to do those things that other people aren't willing to do because it brings you joy and satisfaction. You're living from that heart space.
Amazing.
The money will come because also that field of energy acts as a magnet. It magnetizes reality. It brings people to you. Most people will tell you when they start getting in the flow, they go, I'll talk about somebody, the calls will happen.
Yep.
You know, and
Well, it's just like today, right?
I was just
Yeah.
going to say,
Yeah.
it happened just today.
So we're here in Salt Lake City, Utah, and you've been in my mind for the last couple of weeks as someone that I wanted to bring on this summit because you are a conscious wealth builder.
Yeah.
And so I literally texted you today, hey, Patrick, would you want to participate? Oh, I'm in Salt Lake City. And I'm like, well, me too. Let's do an interview. So now we're here. So that's 100%
Happens.
an example of that.
And those people out there watching probably have had that happen. Once you get, and sometimes it happens just a spark, but that synchronicity, that coherency that happens on a planetary level. Once you start doing that, it's like unseen forces start to work with you instead of against you.
Amazing.
To align your purpose, your life mission. Everybody has a purpose here. There's no external pieces to the puzzle. You know, like the expression, God doesn't make junk. There's every piece fits into that puzzle. Now, we might not see it at this time, but when we look back, even Steve Jobs said that. Steve Jobs said, you can't solve a problem in the beginning in knowing what the solution is, but when you get the solution, you look back and say, oh, that's how we came to this conclusion.
Yeah.
So part of what we do with the Brain Tap is, imagine if you had a piece of equipment that could teleport you into the future, where you could actually see, hear, and experience what your life's going to be like a year from today, 5 years from today, and you started living with that alignment. The possibilities are endless. Like, and I like to point out to a lot of my guests that come and see me when I speak and things like that, is that Deepak Chopra kind of put it into really the best way to say it. He says 97% of what you know about is going to happen to you tomorrow, you know about today. So the farther out you go, the less you know, but your brain is a supercomputer.
That's incredible. That's so amazing.
So, but when we're in beta,
Uh-huh.
we don't get connections. But as we drop into that alpha
So that's
and
what
theta,
you were talking about.
Yeah.
So it's in that
Right.
theta brainwave frequency is where we tap into the intuition.
And the most important thing to remember is the brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined. So what's happening in your mind, your brain is taking in as truth. And so the more that's geared toward your joy, your passion, the more your brain is going to create that for you.
One of the most exciting things too that we just came out was when you meditate, you're triggering a response to over 2,000 genome connections in your, the epigenetics.
What does that mean?
That means that it actually changes the expression of the genes.
So there are people that say, oh, you were born that way. You just have the ability to
Yeah.
bring wealth to you. Well, what if you could turn on that gene? What we're saying is you turn on that gene expression, you turn on charisma, you turn on the expression, you turn on the passion because you were in the right place at the right time. You feel like you fit into the flow instead of feeling like a fish out of water. Like some people will, they get the opportunity, but then they blow it because they're not ready for it. You know, they haven't prepared mentally, physically, or emotionally. And then when it shows up, they don't know how to act.
Well,
So,
and, originally when the whole genetic thing came out, people started actually feeling like victims to their genetics. But now that this whole science of epigenetics is coming along, now we know that we are not victims of genetics. It takes something in the environment or even a thought to either turn on that gene to express itself or not to. So we're not victims of any gene. It's really about the way that we live our lives.
That's incredible. So for me, I would say for a long time, especially in my younger years, I grew up in a poor household. My parents were divorced. My mom was a single mom, raising, us girls and working multiple jobs and going to school. So there was times where, we didn't have a whole lot of food to eat.
Right.
After a couple of weeks of being on food stamps, right?
Right.
So I grew up with the mentality of there's the celebrities, there's the successful people, and I'm not one of them, right? So for a long time, I lived in that paradigm. And then something happened. It was in a moment almost, right? And it was when I really started learning about the brainwave frequencies and really went on this spiritual journey of infinite possibilities. And I got that I could create my life by design. And so speaking to what you're pointing to is that no, we're not a victim of how we were brought up or, our parents, being in poverty or whatever. We can literally create our lives by design.
one of the keys to brain tapping is you should have multiple past. Why are you living out somebody else's past? You've already distorted, deleted, and changed it anyway. So let's recast it. Let's go back in time and change those things that happened to us so that what happens through us is projecting more of what we want. We can change the past in our perceptual reality, not in the reality that happened, but in our perception. So that's what, like in my one book, I have a chapter, it's how I was blessed to be the son of an alcoholic.
Wow.
Because it doesn't serve me to be, oh man, poor me. My dad was an alcoholic. I should be on a bar stool. In fact, when you called me, I should have been half drunk because I don't have to work tonight, right? That's the way an Irishman
So you're
should be.
rewriting
Right.
your past,
Right.
the story that you're making it mean. You get to rewrite it.
I always tell people, whatever happened to you wasn't absolutely necessary, but was needed to bring you to this moment in time.
Wow.
Because right now is the most powerful moment because you have choice. Right now, you're waking up. There's a you in the past right now because all time is present. So that you but if you go back and you leave that part of you, like the little girl who's worried about eating and food stamps and all that, if you leave her in the past, why don't you bring her along, show her the journey, say, wow, look, you become the victor of your story or the champion of your story rather than the victim of your story.
That's amazing.
And you have to
So
rewrite
exciting.
that all the time because what happens in the news? I mean,
Yeah.
if you're feeling too happy, we all know what to do. All you do is turn on the news, and you'll be depressed in no time, right? I mean, they'll give you a series of things to feel down
Absolutely. Or call that one family member that just loves to tell you
Yes.
all the negative things that are
about. Right?
Yeah, we all have
We
one
call
of those.
those-
We all have one of
We
those.
always call those the poison people, or we also call them energy vampires. They come in and they zap you, and that's why a lot of people say you are the sum total of the 5 closest people you hang out with. That's what I know. You have
I
somebody
so
talking about
believe
mastermind.
that. I got to tell you, I used to think a lot of these cliches were just so annoying. Like, let go and let God. I'm like, what does that mean? Like, what do I let go of? Like, I couldn't figure it out. And then, the same thing. It's like you are the sum total of the people that you hang around. Well, what I've noticed going to these masterminds, it's where we met, or at these masterminds, these conferences where successful people hang out at. And it is amazing once you start hanging out, right? It's like we're here now and we're getting connected with all these other people and abundance and prosperity.
That's
And
right.
it's amazing.
Earlier in our career, we worked in the weight loss industry.
Yeah.
And we found that many of our clients, as they started losing weight, their friends were not comfortable with that, and they tried to, pull them back into their old habits and behaviors.
Like,
and,
hey, let's go eat at McDonald's.
yeah, exactly. They were like, oh, wait, I'm losing my eating buddy. This isn't working for me. And so
Wow.
they sabotage. Even spouses will do that. And so the people, we kind of coach them into, let's look for new relationships, new friendships. And at our clinic, they started building friendships with like-minded people, and we're supporting each other that
Wow.
way.
Yeah, we had a client
amazing.
support team, and their motto was "Spend Patrick's money." But we would put together monthly meetings where they would be like-minded,
Yeah.
and we wealth building clubs, whatever. I mean,
That's
And they
incredible.
started walking together, and they became their community, their support, and some of them, some of the friends that weren't willing to go along with that kind of fell away, and they said, you know what, that's okay.
Yeah.
And a couple of them even, shed we say they shed an additional 180 or 190 pounds because they shed the spouse.
that relationship was a.
Their relationship
All the
was-
baggage, all the baggage that came with that.
Yeah, exactly.
But
So that's really great.
The same thing's true with money. I mean, think about it. When somebody thinks, if somebody thinks the more people they help, the more money they'll make, that's a lot different than thinking, how many people can I get to buy my product? It's a little bit different philosophy.
That is so awesome that you're touching on that point because, first of all, when you do discover your true purpose, there's going to be a lot of relationships that probably are no longer serving you and your purpose, so you're going to want to create new ones. So for instance, this community is Conscious Wealth Builders. This is a community of entrepreneurs that are out to create a business that's going to transform the world and make a difference.
Right.
Yeah. So, and a part of being a Conscious Wealth Builder is absolutely that, changing your mindset about what money is. Because people got this whole, this intense energy about money. It just controls so much of our lives, yeah? And so I bought the Brain Tap, so I use the technology and I love it. And I went through the part where you talk about wealth and success. And so going back to what you had just said, it's so important to change your brain patterns about wealth and what that means for you to be able to attract not just monetary, like actual money, but wealthy spirit, wealthy mind, right? Like all those things.
Right. If you have a lack mentality, people are going to feel that. That's a reactionary mind process. That's beta. They'll feel that. It's almost like when we show a picture of the brain waves, the beta consciousness is like jagged, and people feel that. They feel that energy.
Yeah.
And you know, people will say, oh, well, that person just, you know, the hair raises up my neck when they come around. They give me the willies. And you can tell they're kind of like a taker or whatever. But when somebody's in a peaceful state and they have their brain balanced and their body's balanced, they're in a place where they say, I don't come from a place of lack. I believe there's enough for everybody. In fact, most people don't know this, but if we threw all the money up in the air on the planet right now, and gave it to every one of us, we'd have about $3 million apiece.
Really?
So, yeah. So I say, let's play Monopoly. You know, let's throw it up. Let's all get $3 million.
Listen, I'm good with 3 million, right?
Right.
I've learned, you know, and stepping into my true purpose, I really have gotten a sense of everything is provided for and taken care of.
Right.
Would you
And
feel
that-
that to be true?
Yeah, and that's what it takes. But they also say, to finish that,
Yes.
is that with the mentality that people have today, even if we each had that $3 million,
Within 5 years, the
Within-
20% that controls it now would have it again.
It would
That
be back in
80-20
their
rule
hands.
that we have. How many people, it's not about
Yeah.
money. That's what the listeners really have to get in their heads. It's not about money, because how many, if they just do a research, where are the lottery winners now? They'll find out most lottery winners
Suicide.
are bankrupt. Yeah, they
And a
they
lot
can't
of 'em
control the money.
Yeah.
Just
So
can't deal with all of the stuff that comes
we
around.
believe when we first
just
got
even
married.
the families
Yeah.
and the people, the friends that have
Yeah.
the entitlement, and they don't know how to deal with that. They end up
You have to
losing.
build.
Wow.
What we talked about when we first got married, Cynthia was first taking care of our bills, and I saw the bills packing up. We're making money. The bills are paying. She's not saying. She goes, "That's a lot of money." I said, "No, it isn't.
He's
That's
giving me a
that's a
waiver."
great service." I said, "We used to write on our checks. We still do when we don't do checks like that anymore. Like we used to say thank you. You know,
Yes,
and,
I did that
and
too.
Bless the checks when they go out." And I said,
Amazing.
"That's what gives us more back." You know, we have to understand that. And what most people don't
Once I
understand is
learned that, everything changed
Yes.
for me too. I was, because I had never been entrepreneurial before. I met him, and then we went into business together, and he had done it before. So
Yeah.
for me, it was a whole new mindset. And in the beginning, like he said, I was scared to write the checks and fearful about money. And I remember the first time he said to me, we were in the car, and I said something about money, and he said, "We don't have a money problem. We just need more clients. So let's talk about how we're going to do that." And as soon as he said that, that registered in my head. Of course, all we need to do is help more people.
And
And
that philosophy.
we were so young back
Yeah,
then.
we
and,
started
you know,
making money
back
like,
on it,
and then we had a neighbor that was making a lot of noise, and of course we're doing a meditation, so we wanted to be quiet, and they're really loud. So you can use this with any problem. So I went over to the guy next door and I said, "Wow, you know, you're an insurance agent." He said, "Yeah." I said, "You're helping people, aren't you?" And he says, "What do you mean?" He says, I said, "Well, when they get in an accident, you come through, you give them checks, their car." I said, "You're helping people, right?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You know, we're helping people over here too." And I explained what we did. And I said, "You know, when you get all excited on the phone and we hear you through the wall,
Yeah.
you know," I said, and then what happened was so I started saying, "We're both helping people and making money." And he goes, "That's great." So we're in the hallway, and this is a guy who used to interrupt our business all the time. Now, after that, we're on the parking lot, in fact, and our son was there, and this guy across the park, "Dr. Porter, helping people, making money," you know, and so.
I
became
love
his
that.
motto. It really did.
Yeah,
Every time
change
we
his
saw
motto.
him, he would do that, and then we heard him telling it to other people. It was just
Yeah.
great. But it changed his
View.
His view.
Instead of us
and-
having an
and-
argument about
Yes.
what was going on, so and he didn't realize that because he would get angry over there, and we would hear it through the wall. You know, when you're right next in some of these offices
Yep.
and things like that. So I mean, people don't understand. There's a cube really. What we used to teach and we still do is that you have a field of influence, and if you don't master that field of influence, you don't get the next ring of progression.
So how do you master that?
Well, there's little tests every day. And when they show up, let's say you have the illusion of lack, something happens, you write a check and you don't have enough money to cover it because it's not real anyway. What is it? It's all hallucinatory. So it's not true money, but it was supposed to be there. You get a feeling, whatever that feeling is, you got to own it. What if you could transform that feeling it's just energy. It wants to be used. You transform that energy and say, "Wow." You own it at that moment, then you send that energy back out and say, "Hey, I'm an infinite being with infinite expression. How can I do
Yeah.
it?" In fact, we had this happen to us just recently here, and we've had the best week ever. Because on Monday we had a little scare because some money didn't come in that we thought was going to come in.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and said, "Go ahead and pay." When we buy 5,000 units, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And so you think this money's coming in, it's supposed to, because we were traveling, and I jumped to the gun too early. I mean, it all came together all right. In fact,
course.
better than ever. But it was like, for a minute, and I thought, "Wow, I've not felt this kind of fear energy in a long time. Not that we didn't have the money, but it's a great deal of money when you think about ordering 5,000 pieces of equipment.
Of course.
And then, so we were all stressed out. We go to sleep, and then my sister calls me in the morning. She goes, you know, you did the math wrong. We had enough money to cover everything. And I go, all of that for nothing. You know, so I got all worked up.
Yeah.
But then I said to him, I said, you know, I'm amazed that I
Mm.
didn't get as worked up as I would have, you know, years ago. It was like I just kind of had this sense that it was going to
Mm. It was all gonna work out.
And I didn't get all anxious and nervous about it. And I think one of the important things that I've learned over the years too is to think of what money really does. If we think of it in terms as a way to show our gratitude. So we go into a restaurant, they serve us a delicious meal, and we have this great waiter that's taking care of us. When we give the money, that's our way of saying thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you for this wonderful meal.
That's
thank
amazing.
You, thank you
Yeah.
for serving us the way that you did. And,
Yeah.
and that's what money really does.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we look at it that way, it really changes everybody's perception of money.
Absolutely.
And on that note, again, when it's talking about brainwaves, they've actually proven that when you can change with your mind, you change your brainwave, you get into alpha or theta, if you can get there, you can actually send energy. We are light beings. We send energy through our hands. So with a conscious effort, you can change the molecular structure of water. We learned this in Silva.
Yeah,
you can also,
Dr.
they know
Emoto's
that
work.
they've actually, you can energize food. So when you're saying a prayer over your food,
Yeah.
you're literally raising the vibration of that food so that your body can ingest it and get the benefits from it. Whether you do it consciously so the whole world can see it, or you
That's
just do it mentally
incredible.
and you send that energy into it, you're changing that and you're thanking the source. The source isn't us. I'm just the guy that gets to experience all this great stuff. There's a greater power than all of us, and we need to get into that flow, whatever you want to call it. You know,
That is so amazing. Oh my gosh, this is so exciting. I got to tell you, when I started learning about all this stuff, it gave me a sense of hope, right? Because I was at a very low time in my younger years, just going through, you know, some violence with my parents and just a lot of trauma at a young age. And so this gives people a tool, the brain tap technology, to be able to reprogram your brain, reprogram your nervous system, to be able to get into that theta, to come into your intuition. And
your creativity.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people don't have much alpha these days either, and that's where the creativity really comes into play. And to create a life that you love, you have to have access to that. So
Yeah.
that's why bringing that alpha and theta back into balance, you get into your creativity, your intuition, at the same time have great focus and concentration. There's no limits to what you can accomplish. You are in
Amazing.
peak performance at that state.
that's incredible. So for the viewers out here, this segment specifically is about finding your purpose. So I know you said, you know, using the brain tap technology to go into the theta brainwave. And then that gets you to that space of intuition. And then what guidance, do you have any
Well,
guidance
we
on
have a few series that you can go through that we can guide them through, but the core message here is that if you're on purpose, you're going to feel it. But if you're so out of phase with your true purpose, you don't even know you're off track. It's like the worst thing that can happen to a pilot is not knowing where they're going. It's not knowing all the other things that are
Yeah.
happening. What they don't know is what's most important, and what most people don't know is that their stress is killing them. It's affecting their brain, their thyroid, their digestive system, their heart, their metabolic rate. And so if you take that off the table, let's say you take the stress off the table, now it's almost like Paul said in the Bible. He says it was like he was looking through a glass darkly. You know, the scales fell from his eyes. It's because once that stress leaves, you begin to see out into the world differently. You begin to see people with opportunities. How can I help you? How can I assist you? What do you need? And when you become of service, I mean, they've done a lot of research about this. When you're of service, you actually get a better payoff than the person you're serving. Because you can't buy those neurotransmitters and those in the brain chemicals that you create
Better than
by
any
doing
drug
it.
you could ever pay for.
I love science. I
Right.
love science. So it was heart math that actually, you know, I saw my heart rhythms on a live screen and I got the visual. And I think for a lot of people, you know, when you're reading books on spirituality and you're reading all these things, you know, the more you give, the more you receive. It's kind of like it's conceptual. And then sometimes you get the experience of it. But to be able to see the science behind that really solidifies it.
I'm sure some of the viewers here are just new to this, but those that aren't already know this, that we're not physical beings trying to be more spiritual. We're spiritual beings having a physical experience. So we're masters of the universe already. But the thing is, we pretended that we're not. And we've done such a great job of pretending that we actually create lack and limitation and
Yeah.
all this. So it's not that we have to be anything. We have to basically unhypnotize ourselves, dehypnotize ourselves from all these negative, limited beliefs,
Wow.
and realize that there's enough out there. And if you do, when you're planning your future, it's a lot easier to make mistakes in your mind. It's a lot easier to clean them up, I should say, than taking 3 years and trying to do something in the external world, which takes a long time. You know, there's not an actor or an actress that doesn't rehearse. You know, they don't just go up on stage and they do it. They've rehearsed over and over and over again, and then they perform. And if it's a film, of course, they can shoot as many as they want till they get the perfect one.
Yeah.
But even if they're on stage, they don't just go out on opening night and do it. But a lot of people, every day is a new day. It's a new opening night, but they never practice for that day. So what the brain tap does is it does what a great astronaut would do. All astronauts are taught what's called precognitive thinking, which means to think before time, because they're moving so fast through our time that if they think in time, they're already dead. Their senses. So they're thinking, what's happening 2 minutes from now, 3 minutes from now? And the most successful people on earth, and that's, we have a grandchild, Sophie, we're so proud because she thinks like this. And we were trying to train her to do this. It's called forward thinking. If you think of the future first, you don't make a lot of mistakes. But if you think in the moment, immediate gratification, immediate satisfaction, I just want pleasures now.
Oh my
You know,
gosh.
in-
You're speaking to the entire generation of the millennials.
Right?
Exactly.
We
So-
are the now generation.
Exactly, but what they know is that people who are successful, even from childhood, they prefer delayed gratification. So like when
Really?
our
Yeah, there's a study
granddaughter,
called the Oreo study.
yeah, when our granddaughter on Christmas Day, we had bought her Barbie's dream house, and of course it's this big box. It's the biggest present in the room, and so we said, "Well, Sophia, which present do you want to open first?" And she went over to that one. She says, "I'm saving this one for last." And Patrick and I looked at each other and did a fist
Yeah.
bump. We're like, "All right, delayed gratification."
We're
That's
still teaching
amazing.
Eli a little differently. Eli would rip into that one,
Yeah,
you know. So we
grandson's
gotta have a
not
backup
quite
plan for him.
there
But
yet, yeah.
you know,
So
so
That's so interesting.
you know, there are some
But
people.
that's definitely a skill that can be learned, though.
Yeah.
Absolutely, and it makes all the difference, because even with people who have a weight problem, generally speaking, it's because it's that instant gratification. They have that behavior locked in, and so they make a food choice without any thought of the future consequences.
Wow.
People who maintain a slender weight have a tendency to think in terms of, if I eat that, this is what's going to happen to me, so
Wow.
I choose not to.
Wow. So going to the topic of being a conscious wealth builder, money management.
Right.
Holy cow! Impulse buying. I feel like that's a huge, issue for a lot of people.
It is.
Nowadays.
It's that instant gratification.
Right, it's
and-
Yeah.
if how many, I don't know the exact figures. It used to be about 95% of the people would die without any money. Right, they had nothing left. There was nothing to leave to their heirs.
Yeah.
And a greater number than that actually retire without any money. Some family member has to take care of them, they have to move in with the family, because they lived immediately with the satisfaction of the moment. And to have wealth, you have to take care of yourself. You have to be a little selfish right now, so you can help
Yeah.
more people. It's kind of like, I tell people, it's like flying on an airplane. They don't say, hey, put the air, when the air comes down, they don't say put it on your child first. They say put it on you first so you can take care of yourself.
Yes.
If you can't take care of yourself, you can't take care of other people. So
true.
So take care of yourself. Give yourself permission to, I mean, a lot of people just do things that money brings, but there's a lot of things that you can do that don't cost anything, like spending time with family or friends or coworkers, that don't cost money, and you can then bank that money and have more fun when you're older. Even if you don't live, you will have the money there. You know, there's a
Yeah.
saying, live as if today's your last day, but as if you're going to live forever. You know, so that doesn't mean
Yeah.
spend like you're going to, this
I
is your
think a lot
last
of
day.
people leave that last
Yeah.
part out.
Right, exactly.
So like, one of the keys that we teach with the brain tap, it's a way of thinking. So number one is that so many people identify with lack. Like they first thing we need to do is disassociate that from that. You're not this person who has lack. You believe that. That's the part you played. Now we have to recast it. But it's just like if you knew a movie star in their role, and they kind of, that was what they were, and then they get cast into another role, for a while you can't quite get that TV show, the other TV show out of your head, but eventually, if
Some
they're
of them
doing really
get
good,
typecast
Yeah.
forever, like what happened to Ginger Grant when she was on Gilligan's Island. I mean, she never could break free from that typecast, And she was a Juilliard trained singer and actress,
Wow.
and you know, it really, she said it was the worst thing she ever did.
Mm. Yeah.
Right. So what we need to do is think in terms, what are we casting ourselves into every day? You can live like you're a millionaire or a billionaire if you're already a millionaire, but you don't have to spend like one.
Yeah.
It's an attitude, and that means being gracious, not being, being the person that, if you really were, and I believe everyone is, already heir to the fortunes of the universe, what would you do?
Yeah.
You have that opportunity to prove that every day, but it's in your circle, is what I'm saying. So our
Absolutely.
circle, my circle's not as big as, the president of Mexico, which so eventually, hopefully, it will be, but it's not right now. He knows the heads of the other, it's kind of like
Yeah.
the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon,
Yep.
But we all have our spear. But if we all start to live that way, those will intersect,
Yep.
and will raise the consciousness of the planet. People will start to act differently about
Amazing.
money and about different things, and there won't be this feeling like I got to take from you, so I have more.
Yeah. Well, and then also too, conscious spending. Spending your money on things that you do need, but being conscious of where you're putting your money, like local companies, local farmers markets, for instance, and shopping locally in these mom and pop stores and then taking the money out of these bigger corporations that are really destroying the planet ultimately.
Right, we were
So
just
how do you
talking-
guys shop?
Yeah.
Do you?
There's a farmer's market in New Bern, but we were telling our nephew he was so lucky here because in Salt
We
Lake,
live in a very small southern town.
they have some really great
So it
resources.
can be a little challenging, but we do have local farms that bring food in, and you
Yeah.
can go out to and things like that. But in a small town, it's a little more challenging. You've got to put a little more effort to it. But absolutely, that's what we do,
That's
whenever we
great.
possibly can.
Also, we do not support any GMO products
Good for
and
you.
things that are. I mean,
Right.
Yeah.
anything that's going to be damaging. Of course, at our events we would never have even alcohol. We're not against alcohol in that, but we wouldn't have it at our events because we're not. We don't support that.
100%.
So we would always have fresh foods, live foods, because we want to be the example of those things.
For sure, yeah. For sure, like for Conscious Wealth Builders, the events that we're going to be putting on here in the near future, there's going to be healthy foods, not your
Right.
typical conference that you go to where you eat donuts and cookies and
Right.
all of these things. I'm just thinking to myself, we've got to
Well,
really
even-
start living it and being the example.
In our small town, we were at a Relay for Life event, which
Yeah.
is the American Cancer
Cancer
Society. And you couldn't find a fresh food in the place. They had a kids' tent with pizza and cupcakes,
Yeah.
and they had everything was just, and everybody there is obese. And I'm looking around thinking, does nobody but me see the insanity in this?
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah.
but it's gradually changing. Awareness
It is.
more
It
and
is.
more people are.
But it takes
becoming aware
leaders
of
like
it.
us to really be that stand.
It does.
Right?
When you-
Because
Yes.
even if people do want the sugary sweets, and that's why most people put sugar in all these, even health supplements, it absolutely is mind-boggling to me. We are constantly putting these sugar and all these things that we don't need into food. But we've got to start taking a stand as leaders, even if that's what you want. We've got to start being the leaders that says, okay, you may want that, but it's not what's good for you ultimately, and we've
Going
got to be
back
the
to
example.
The immediate gratification and
You should
or
have
the
seen.
long term.
I wanted to bring up when in
Yeah.
'89 we got married, and we didn't have alcohol at our wedding. And we had healthy food there.
Amazing.
So her
So only like 2 people showed up.
yeah. So being Catholic, of course, that's not usually recommended.
Well, I was raised Catholic, so I could totally
Usually
get
they
it.
say, you always know you're around Catholics because when there's 4 there's always a 5th. But
He always has to get a corny joke in somewhere. so they're
Absolutely.
not
But,
got
love it.
we decided no alcohol, and everybody had a great time.
They did.
They were like afterwards to go, we didn't know what to expect here, because of course what do people use
Amazing.
in our communities? People would expect that, and it's like, no.
Did you hook people up to brain tap? Get them high on their brain waves?
That
Yeah.
would have been a really good idea.
I mean, I just think that you don't need that to celebrate. So many people, like even bad foods, you don't need, just because somebody says, oh, it's my birthday or, whatever, you should be eating healthy foods. And think of, when we look at the kids today, when we were growing up, there was one overweight child in my class. And Bob was his name. And now you go to watch a parade, and the little kids are going, oh my gosh,
Everywhere you
those
turn.
kids don't hardly have a chance unless somebody helps them
They
to
don't.
learn about
They don't.
their diabetes are going to run out of control. Who's going to
Yeah.
take care of these kids? If
Yeah.
1 out of every 50 children are going to be autistic, because of what's going on.
Yeah.
We need to do something now, and we need to do that right where it starts. Our bodies are made up of thoughts, or traumas and toxins are what interrupt our flow of our body
Yep.
and how it's built. So we need to work on all those things. So we got to eat healthy foods. We got to think healthy thoughts. We've got to be
Remove
active
those
and
toxins
yes.
out of our body.
And all three of those things greatly affect how the brain functions.
Wow.
If you're all three, thoughts, traumas, and toxins are the three sources of stress. Most people only think of emotional stress, but traumas and toxins also are forms of stress. So when somebody's in pain, their brainwave activity is going to be reflective of that, and so they're not able to make good decisions. They tend to amplify the pain. But when
That's
we can
amazing.
change the brainwave activity with the brain by doing the brain tapping, now they're settling in, they're getting that alpha theta brainwave frequency, and they start to bring down that pain level, and then pretty soon it can be gone. They can learn how to take it away in a very short period of time.
Wow.
So that's just one example.
Well, and that's getting back to, what really the topic of this conversation is, discovering your true authentic purpose and living that. Because of course you're going to go, from being in that purpose, and then ego, identity, opponent, adversary, whatever you want to call it, we're always kind of in a battle with our own self. Yeah. And for sure, all these things play a factor, like you're talking about. When we're in a state of stress, that disconnects us from our true self and disconnects us from our true purpose on the planet.
And when you look at so many young people today, so many young people, even children on antidepressants. Why? And a lot of it has to do with the fact that they don't have any of that connection to their intuition and their creativity, because they live in such a stress-filled environment. They're all uptime and no downtime, so they don't get access to it. So next thing you know, they're not connected to themselves, and then they start, getting depressed or getting anxious, or stress takes over, and you see young people that don't have a good quality of life because of this.
Yeah.
I think to kind of bring it around, when to get somebody to know their true purpose, they'll know because number one, they're going to enjoy it. They're going to have a feeling that it's going to resonate with them.
Yeah.
They're going to see, they're going to feel good. They're not going to know why. Maybe they're not even going to make money off it at first. What I'm doing today, I used to do as my hobby.
Yeah,
And then at some point, I started making more money at my hobby than I did at my job.
that's great.
And then I decided, well, I'm not going to do my job anymore. And of course, at that moment, I had a dip in my income for a while because the fear that set in when I quit my 9 to 5. But
Yeah.
then I've surpassed it. So, but then also, every time over the last 30 years that I've tried to do something outside of my purpose, I've lost a great deal of money.
Wow, that
And
is
even
true.
though, and so you'll know because the money will follow you. It will. You can't help but
I
make money
love that.
when you're doing what you need to do.
Yeah.
And if you always, there's always this thing about I want to plus the relationship. I want
Yep.
to plus what we're doing. I want to figure out how we can have a win-win. What we really want to know is what is the real experience? And if every experience we enter into, we'd say, wow, I'm going to learn something from you.
Yeah.
You might learn something from me, I hope. But what I'm going to do is we're going to be more because we met each other when we leave each other.
That's amazing.
And if you continue to do that, what's going to happen is you're going to introduce me to somebody like David Fagan, who introduced us at an
Yep.
event. So we met David a year or so ago. He's introduced us to some incredible people. Now we're going to introduce them to other people.
Yep.
And that's really how it grows. And that's the community. That's the consciousness part of it, because truly consciousness is the underlying reality of everything. So if you're talking about wealth consciousness, once we start to tap into that conscious barrier, it will permeate, stimulate, and organize your life so that you can't help but win.
It's incredible. I do want to go back to what you said, because this is so true. So when you got out of alignment with your purpose, you saw that you lost money as a result of that. So I share about my story in my presentations. And so when I was 16, I was on a mission to prove everybody wrong, that I could make it in life, right? So I was so focused on proving people wrong and was on just chasing money. And so I was like totally not connected to my heart space and my true authentic self, because I was in this survival mechanism called I'm going to prove everybody wrong and that I can make it. And I feel like we all have our own version of that, right? And so true. I cannot tell you how much time, energy, and money I lost. Oh my gosh. I mean, it was just such a struggle. So that's, to me, this is why this conversation is so important for people to really do the work that it takes to discover your true purpose. Because the impact of not living your true purpose is money, time, and energy. Absolutely.
That's it. Patrick says many times, today we live in an energy economy.
Yeah.
And that's really what it is how much energy do we have and how do we utilize that energy?
Yeah.
Where are we directing that? And
Yeah.
it just makes all the difference when your energy is moving toward doing something that fits with your purpose and passion.
Oh, that's
Absolutely.
so amazing.
And then the money just follows. And, genuinely it's proven out in our lives over and over and over
Yeah.
again.
That's amazing.
We
Yeah.
love being entrepreneurs. We couldn't imagine life any
Right.
other way.
Yeah, I'm not a good employee, so I need to
Me,
be.
I'm a terrible employee. Nobody wants to hire me.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, and this is what this is about, because I really truly feel like once we're tapped into our true authentic purpose, this natural expression of leadership and creativity forms about, and you start getting ideas. And I mean, you can create a business through the arts, you can create it through technology, science. I mean, there's so many ways that you could create a business. And I feel like once you're in alignment with your true purpose, this creative path starts to unfold. And that's what happened to you guys.
Almost
Yeah.
always when you see somebody in a depressed state or a negative state or something like that, it's because they don't have a future, because
Yeah.
they don't know their purpose.
Yeah.
So as soon as they find that, and we can help them by getting them back in touch with that intuition and that creativity, once you find that, then all of that falls away.
Let
It's
me
amazing.
try to kind of help the audience
Yeah.
kind of visualize what it's like to do a brain tap session.
Okay, good.
So
I
that
love
they
it.
understand that. So
Yeah.
imagine you put on a set of headphones, and those headphones have lights in them. And they're broadcasting a frequency. Light is the most under-prescribed nutrient on the planet right now. We need light to operate. That's why people get jet lagged. That's why the body
So
doesn't
that's why
function.
you have
made
the
of
light
this.
sensors
Yes.
and the brain tap
Yeah.
technology. So when you put the brain tap on, there's the goggles and it's sending light into your brain.
Yeah, so first, the ear part it's a 294 hertz frequency. It's from Dr. Noget. They can get more information about it later, but it's actually telling the nervous system, stop the sympathetic overload and turn on your parasympathetics. That's the digest, heal, recovery
My
of
gosh,
the body.
I am so going straight home and putting on my brain tap, by the way.
And then number two, when we talk about the visor lights, people go, why do you have the retinal flashing? Well, your eyes are closed, but it's the best way to get light into the brain.
Wow.
The eyes aren't just attached to the brain, they are the brain. So once we get light into the brain, we're going to detox the brain. Most people don't realize this. If you don't get level 4 sleep at night, your brain never detoxifies completely.
Oh my
It has to
gosh.
get into level 4 deep sleep. So 1 out of 6 of our listeners and viewers out there right now are having problems sleeping.
Big time.
The brain
Yeah.
tap helps you to get into that brainwave state where you can sleep deeply, detoxify. Now the light, you can't build the brain with toxins present because you got to get the toxins out. But the brain only detox again at night. At one time you go into sleep paralysis. All the synapses firing stops. The brain dumps all the toxins and then boots back up again. It reboots. So we're doing that. Now we're doing it with light. Now we're doing it with sound. We're doing isochronic tones. You're hearing tones. Some people can hear them because they're sensitive to it. Others can't. They can just feel it. And then there's some that are music only, that are 10 cycle music for that alpha. Other times you listen to a message, maybe something that's going to help you to break through some barriers, or like one of the wealth ones that the people out there might really like is one where you actually begin to do business with pleasant and positive people. You know, you actually begin to set that intention so that you
Yeah.
meet those people that are going to be like-minded, consciousness people that can help you to grow your business, and you're going to help them. And each session lasts anywhere between 10 minutes to 20 minutes, and it takes you into sleep and brings you back out of sleep. And during that time, you get access to, or discretionary access to, a power or a force in the mind we call hypermnesia, which is super memory. So you begin to remember who you are.
Oh my
You're an infinite
gosh.
creator in the universe. So let's start creating from that level. And the more you use it, the better your body responds to
Imagine
it.
if everyone on this planet was truly connected to who they are and why they've been sent to this planet. Imagine what the world would look like.
We feel like that's our purpose,
Yes.
is to help people to get there.
That is
Yes.
so their purpose.
Yes. So we believe that if we can get 1/3 of the planet meditating They don't all have to be using the brain tap, but of course we'd like them to.
Of
But
course.
but if they
Highly recommended.
But if we could get them
It makes
all,
it a lot easier.
if
then.
we could get the
It
resident
does.
frequency of the planet, instead of this stress and this fear, this frustration, and of course what sells newspapers and what gets people to watch TV, we need to start turning that off so they don't get paid to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if people would tune out that, it wouldn't happen because what we amplify in our mind happens in our reality. So we don't want to do that anymore. We want to focus on the most healthy, happy, harmonious things and start to create that.
So amazing. Well, I get to acknowledge both of you for being here, for just spontaneously showing up. Like, you guys are amazing.
great timing.
Just amazing people. I acknowledge your contribution on the planet, what you're doing for
It's
people.
great you're putting this together so people can get out there and learn about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, wonderful.
So I highly suggest everybody, I'm clear, needs Brain Tap. Use it in the morning and be able to transform your life with it. We're going to include a free gift.
Yes.
And can you just share a little bit about this free gift that we're going to give
Well,
everybody?
we're going to give, because we're talking about it here and it's like describing atmosphere to a fish, we're going to give them a download that they can download it, own it as an MP3, a series of those for wealth building. But we're also going to give them 30 days free on our app so they can listen to the other 700 that are there. And if they like that and they want to take part in getting a brain tap, there'll be a link there where they'll be able to get a special for being on this this webcast as well.
That's so amazing. Thank you so much. So to get your free gift, go ahead and click the link below and get your download your MP3 of how you can build and create wealth. So thanks again for being here, guys. It's so amazing. Thanks for tuning in to the Conscious Wealth Builders Online Summit.